Dear viewers, in this particular lecture, I would be discussing about the classification of bryophytes. There are different types of bryophytes and they are broadly being classified into three basic groups, which are the mosses, liverworts and the hornworts. Now, on the classification of bryophytes, different schools of thoughts and different bryologists had classified the bryophytes into different groups. Some of the common accepted ones are whereby the Bryophyta is further subdivided into three major groups, which are the Hepaticea, Anthoceroti and the Massae. The Hepaticea is also known as the liverworts, and one of the basic example of liverworts is Riccia. Under Anthoceroti, it is also known as hornworts, and one of the examples is Anthoceros. And in Massae, it is also known as mosses, and one of the examples is Funaria. As per ICBN, that is the International Code of Botanical Nomenclature, the bryophytes have been divided into terms like that of Hepaticopsida, also known as the liverworts, Anthoceratopsida, also known as hornworts, and Bryopsida, better known as mosses. These groups have further been subdivided into different orders. And as we see that this Hepaticopsida has further been subdivided into 330 genera and 8,000 species, followed by Anthoceratopsida, which is further been divided into 7 genera and a single order, that is Anthocerotales. And in Bryopsida, it has been further subdivided into 700 genera followed by 14,000 species. Now, depending upon the recent classification of bryophytes, it has been divided into Mercantiophyta, Bryophyta and Anthoceratophyta. The Mercantiophyta, according to Stotler 2008, it has been further subdivided into three classes, namely Haplometriopsida, Mercantiopsida and Jungermanniopsida. And the group of Bryophyta was further subdivided by Buck and Coffinet in the year 2000 into 5 classes, namely Takakiopsida, Sphagnopsida, Andreopsida, Andreobryopsida and Polytrichopsida. And the group of Anthoceratophyta was further been subdivided by Stoller and Stoller 2005 into 2 groups, namely Leosporoceratopsida and Anthoceratopsida. So first we begin with the classification of the group Hepaticopsida. Now the Hepaticopsida usually consists of a thalloid plant body. Thalloid plant body means that they are not differentiated into root, stems and leaves. They are found adjusted to that of the plant surface, and they are thick and fleshy in the center. They are dorsiventrally flattened and dichotomously branched. The Hepaticopsida, they consist of several air pores in the thallus, and there is also presence of an upper epidermal zone which acts as a protective zone, followed by these air chambers within the air pores are present. These air pores usually helps in the exchange of gases from the internal to the external atmosphere. There is also presence of certain unicellular rhizoids, which are both smooth-walled and tuberculate rhizoids. These pegged rhizoids or the tuberculate rhizoids comprises of certain peg-like projections which projects into the lumen, and rhizoids, as we know, are certain root-like structures which helps in the anchorage of the plant to the substratum and also absorption of minerals and nutrients from the soil and sends it to the other parts of the plant body. When we see a longitudinal section, that is the LS of the sporophyte, it has been seen that in Hepaticopsida, or better known as hepatics, it consists of mainly the foot, the seta, and there is sporangium which is present beneath the seta, and this entire structure is being protected by calyptra. This Hepaticopsida is further been subdivided into groups like Mercantiales, Jungermannials, Metzerials and Calobriales. Now, Mercanthiales are a group of bryophytes which have been present under Hepaticopsida. As we can see in this particular slide, that these Mercanthiales are also possesses thalloid body, that is, they are dorsiventrally flattened, dichotomously branched, they lie prostrate on the ground and are usually found in the dark, damp and shady areas, and they have lots of water resources within them. Similar to that of the hepatics, they consist of air pores on the thallus which helps in exchange of gases and the processes of respiration. As here we can see in this slide, there is also presence of certain green colored cells, and similarly there is also presence of certain unicellular rhizoids with scales. So rhizoids, as we know, helps in anchorage and absorption of minerals and nutrients, followed by the scales which are usually multicellular in nature, but they have single celled in their thickness and they provide protection to that of the cells which are present beneath them. Now, when certain sections of this plant body is being made, it is seen to consist of certain rhomboidal or polygonal areas which comprises of certain chlorophyll filled cells, and as the name suggests, these chlorophyll filled cells helps in the process of photosynthesis and also gives the green coloration to the plant body. It also comprises of the sexual reproductive structures, namely the antheridia and the archegonia. Now, the stalk on which the antheridia is present is known as the antheridiophore, and the stalk on which the archegonia is present is known as the archegoniophore. Within the antheridia, there is presence of male reproductive structures like that of the antherozoids, and in archegonia, it comprises of inverted flask shaped structures. Now, here when we see the diagram of archegonia, it is seen to consist of a stalk like structure followed by the venter, within which the egg is present, and beneath it there are certain neck canal cells. Now, during fertilization or during maturation, these neck canal cells, they usually dissolve, thereby making way for these male sex cells to fuse or to travel through these fused neck canal cells and fertilize the egg. This causes fertilization of the female reproductive structure. Now, while I discuss about the sporophyte of Mercanthiales, it is very well seen that it comprises of mainly three regions, which is the foot, the seta and the capsule in total. Now, the foot plays a very important role. It is the one which supplies all the nourishment from the gametophytic structure to that of the sporophyte, and this foot is been connected with that of the capsule with the help of an elongated structure called to be as the seta. Now, within this capsule is present certain spores which are mixed with elaters, which usually upon maturation these spores mature, which causes upon rupturing of this capsule layer, and the spores then swim out and the sporophyte gets matured. In the second diagram, that is the structure of mature sporophyte, it is also been seen as the same, where it is been subdivided into different parts like that of the calyptra, the seta, the capsule, which consists of spores and the elaters, and the most important thing is that the entire structure is being protected by an outer external layer, which is the jacket layer. Now, next I would discuss about Jungermannials. The Jungermannials are also a groups which are present under Hepaticopsida, and some of the common examples of Jungermannials are Porella and Bazzania. Now, when we see the parts of the plant body, it is very evident that the leaves are usually caducous, means that they usually fall off upon maturity. And one of the most striking features of these kind of plants is that it possesses 3 rows of leaves, and there are actually two different kinds of leaves which are present in these three rows. It consists of a central stem-like structure surrounded by two lateral leaves, which are the larger leaves which are present on the dorsal surface, and a smaller set of leaves which are present on the ventral surface, which is specifically known as the underleaf. Now, when we see a section of the leaf cell, it usually consists of complex oil bodies, which suggests that these complex oil bodies usually provide them with the nourishment. In this particular slide also, we can see that there is presence of bilobed underleaf, and there is presence of certain lobule-like structures also which are present in these specific plants of Jungermannial group, and there is also presence of certain elaters which are very much evident on the rupture of this capsule. Now, describing about the gametophyte and sporophyte, here basically the gametophyte, that is consists of the Archegonia and the Antheridia. This Archegonia is being protected by certain structure which is known as the perianth, and the sporophyte which is there, it upon maturation consists of the foot, the seta and the capsule, and when the capsule matures, it ruptures, causing the spores and the elaters to come out of this entire structure. Now, I would discuss about medsarials. These medsarials are also a group of bryophytes, and they are usually found in the dark, damp and shady areas. Some of the most common examples of medsarials are the Pileia endivifolia and Pileia epiphylla. The characters are very much distinct from that of the other groups, where it consists of the thallus, which is not further differentiated into root, stems and leaves. They lie prostrate on the surface of the ground. They are dichotomously branched and dorsiventrally flattened. And when we see these sections of the cells under the microscope, it is seen that it consists of certain oil bodies which have different refractive index from that of the other structures, which suggests that they have certain functions in nutrition and provides the plant with the nutrition and also supports them in cases of drier conditions. There is also presence of lamina cells which have certain green colored cells which suggest that these are chlorophyllous cells, which usually helps in the process of photosynthesis. And also in this fourth diagram, we can see that there is presence of rhizoids, which are root-like structures which helps in anchorage of the plant to the substratum and absorption of minerals and nutrients from the soil and sends it to the plant. The sporophyte structure, as we see here, comprises of the foot, the seta and the capsule. The foot is usually very small, they are bulbous in their shape and they usually connect the gametophytes with the sporophytes. Now, as we see here, there is presence of the seta with the capsule. The seta is usually an elongated stalk-like structure which connects the entire plant body or the particular part of that sporophyte, and the seta is associated with a bulbous region which is known as the capsule. Now, upon the maturity of the capsule, the spores within the capsule also mature, and upon this maturation they dehisce, causing the spores and the elaters to burst out from this capsule, and on reaching a suitable substratum and getting proper environmental conditions, they again germinate into new plant body. In the gametophytic structures, it consists of the Archegonia and the Antheridia. The Antheridia, as we see here, are protected within certain structures, and the Archegonia is also found. Now, if both Antheridia and Archegonia are present on the same structure, then they are known as heterothallic or dioecious in nature, but if only Antheridia is present, it is known as monoecious, and if both of the structures are present, then it is known as dioecious. Now, next we shift to the group of Anthoceratopsida. These groups of Anthoceratopsida usually derive their name also known as hornworts, because as we have seen that the sporophytes are usually certain horn-like structures, and from there they derive their names of hornworts. These are also stalk-like structures and have thalloid plant bodies, and they are usually found in the damp and the shady areas. Now, on seeing the vertical section of the thallus, it is seen that there is presence of certain mucilaginous cavities. Within these mucilaginous cavities, there is presence of certain nostoc colonies. Now, it is known that these nostoc colonies exhibit a kind of mutualistic or a symbiotic relationship, whereby they provide nitrogen in the form of ammonia to the plant, and the Anthoceros on the other hand supplies them with carbon. Therefore, both of them coexist in a kind of mutualistic or a symbiotic relationship. On seeing the further sections of the thallus, it has been seen within these mucilaginous cavities there is presence of certain mucilaginous hairs which are laden with mucilage, and also there is presence of chloroplasts followed by certain pyrenoids. And on seeing the structure of the thallus in details, it has been found that the cells of the upper surface of the thallus are generally chlorophyllous, while those which are found in the deeper layers of the thallus do not contain any chloroplasts. At the edge or at the lower portion of the thallus there is presence of certain rhizoid like structures or the root like structures known as the rhizoids, which helps in anchorage of the plant to the substratum and absorption of minerals and nutrients from the substratum and sends it to different parts of the plant body. The other components which are present within the Anthoceros thallus is that there is presence of one chloroplast per cell, and as the name suggests, the chloroplast usually help in the process of photosynthesis and at the same time gives their green coloration to the plant body. There is also presence of rhizoids as mentioned earlier. On seeing the structure of the antheridium, it has got a unique structure whereby this entire setup is protected by a roof-like structure, and within this roof-like structure is enclosed the antheridium. There is presence of an indentation or a stalk-like structure which arises beneath the antheridium, which attaches the entire structure to that of the plant body. Within this antheridium is present the androcyte mother cells followed by the androgonial cells. Upon maturation, these roof which is present, they burst open, followed by the bursting open of these androcyte mother cells and also the androgonial cells. The dehisced antheridium then releases these androcytic mass, and within these androcytic mass there is presence of the mature sperm, which upon maturation then fertilizes the female reproductive structures. In the second diagram, it is showing the antheridium is enclosed within the antheridial chamber of Anthoceros. Upon seeing the sporophytic structure of Anthoceros, it usually consists of the bulbous foot which attaches it to the gametophyte, and from the foot arises an elongated stalk-like structure which is known as the seta, and this is been surrounded by the capsule wall followed by certain other structures which are known as the spores. The spores are usually tetrad in their nature and therefore referred to as the spore tetrads. Surrounded by these spore tetrads are the pseudoelaters and certain spore mother cells. Here in this slide we can see that there is presence of the spores and the elaters, and in the center of the sporophyte there is presence of the hydroids, which are the water conducting cells that occupy the central region, followed by the leptoids, which are the sugar conducting cells which surrounds these hydroids, and all these spores occur in the form of tetrads. Next, I would discuss about the group Bryopsida. Now, Bryopsida is specifically known as mosses. A typical moss usually comprises of the gametophytic generation, which is a cushion mass like structure, followed by the sporophytic generation, and in this sporophytic generation there is presence of an elongated stalk-like structure called to be as the seta, and at the top of seta is present a structure which is known as the capsule. These capsules upon maturation releases the spores, which on finding a suitable substratum again grows into a new plant. Here also in this slide we can see that there is presence of certain appendages or specific structures which are found in the mosses known as the protonema, and these structures usually arises from the spore wall in the form of haploid cells, and in this particular diagram we can see that there is presence of certain bulbils which are also associated with the protonema. So these are one of the most identifying features of the group Bryopsida. Now when we see a particular structure of the moss, as discussed earlier, it consists of two generations, the sporophytic and the gametophytic generation. The sporophytic generation usually comprises of the rhizoids, which are the root-like structures, followed by the stem and the leaves, and the sporophytic generation usually comprises of the elongated stalk-like structure called to be as the seta, followed by the capsule. And here we can see another structure which is known as the operculum. So this operculum is usually a closed lid-like structure which is present on top of the capsule, and upon maturation this operculum usually comes off and allows the spores to disintegrate. The sporophytic structure usually is a complex structure which comprises of the topmost region which is known as the operculum. This operculum usually acts as a lid-like structure which protects the entire sporophytic structure. Beneath the operculum is present certain teeth-like structures, as here we can see, which is a major opening to this entire sporophyte. And beneath the peristome is a circular ring-like structure which is known as the annulus. Within these structures are present, and upon getting suitable environmental conditions and upon the maturation of the sporophyte, the operculum usually comes off, the peristome teeth rotates, and followed by the rotation of the annulus, causing all the spores which are present beneath it to come out. And here also in this diagram we can see that upon the dehiscence of the sporophyte, these spores come out, and on reaching a suitable substratum they again germinate into a new plant. Now this phylum Bryophyta is further subdivided into certain other groups like that of Tachyopsida, Sphagnopsida, Andreopsida, Bryopsida and Polytrichopsida. In cases of Tachyopsida, these are basically highly green colored plants, and on seeing the section of the leaves, it is seen that typically trisratose and contain certain oil bodies. These oil bodies are usually have a refractive index which is different from that of the chloroplast, which usually helps to distinguish the oil bodies from that of the chloroplast, and these are one of the most identifying characters of the groups of Tachyopsida. Here also in this particular section we can see that the stem is composed of a cuticle comprising of a weak conducting strand, and the shoots which are present, they are connected by intercalary rhizomatous branches. So upon seeing these plants in the nature and on seeing these characteristics, we can easily identify that they belong to the group Tachyopsida. The Sphagnopsida, which is also better known as the peat moss, it usually comprises of two major types of branches, which is the divergent branch and the pendant branch. The pendant branch usually forms a pendant like structure and it hangs around the axis, and there is also presence of the divergent branches which forms a 90-degree angle. Now there is also presence of capitulum from where these branches usually arise, and on seeing the sections of these leaves, it is seen to consist of two identifying types of cells, which is the chlorophyllous cell and the hyaline cell. The chlorophyllous cell, as the name suggests, consists of chlorophyll and therefore they perform the functions of photosynthesis and also supplies green color to that of the plant body. The next group of cells is the hyaline cells. These hyaline cells are usually dead cells and they are associated with the plant body using certain network which are the fibrillar network. And we can also here see certain pore-like structures. These pores are the main agents or the connecting network which usually helps in the exchange of gases from the internal atmosphere to the external atmosphere. In this particular diagram, we can see that the sporophyte is divided into the foot, the seta and the capsule, and within this capsule there is presence of the columella followed by the spores, and upon the maturation of this entire structure, the spores usually come out due to the dehiscence of the capsular region, and on getting a suitable substratum they again germinate into a new plant. The next group is Andreopsida, which is better known as the granite moss. Upon seeing the leaf, it is found that the margins of the leaf have certain tooth-like indentations, and these tooth-like indentations are the major identifying characters of the group of Andreopsida. Now, on seeing the cross section through the stem, it is found that there is very light differentiation of cells. Only the epidermal cells or the parenchymal cells are present and the differentiation is very minimalistic. The Bryopsida, which is also known as the true moss, is the next group, and here the sporophyte, as we see, it is being elevated by a structure which is an elongated structure known as the seta, and at the top there is presence of an ovular structure which is known as the capsule. And on seeing the leaf, we can see here a distinct midrib is present in the leaf. This is one of the most important identifying characters of the groups of Bryopsida. Finally, the group of Polytrichopsida is a group of Acrocarpus moss, and on seeing the lamella, which is when seen under the microscope, it is seen to comprise of certain air spaces within them. These air spaces usually helps in interaction or exchange of gases, and on the other hand, the lamella which is present is usually photosynthetic in nature. On seeing the cross section of the stem, the central portion is occupied by certain structures which are known as the hydroids, which are the water conducting cells, followed by certain structures which are known as the leptoids, which are the sugar conducting cells, and on the surrounding portions are the presence of certain epidermal or parenchymatous cells. So, these presence of hydroids and leptoids are the most identifying and the common characteristics of the groups of Polytrichopsida. And on seeing the sporangium structure, it is seen that this sporangium structure has a specific region which is known as the epigram. Now, epigram is a circular membranous structure which covers the capsular mouth. This epigram is present only in Polytrichopsida and in certain other groups, and by seeing these characteristics like that of the epigram, which acts as a covering layer on the top of this sporophyte, we can now categorize the plants having these types of groups to belong to the group of Polytrichopsida. Similarly, the other groups of bryophytes having such defining characteristics, they can be classified into different groups accordingly. Thank you.